what we want to see, what we don't want to see with a little spin, and the can't-do list. Week 17 on the road against the Rams Saturday night. Let's just go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. So I'm doing something a little bit different today with the Cardinals out of playoff contention. Thank you to the Seattle Seahawks for winning that football game, if you want to call it that, last night, making it even more difficult for if the Cardinals were to beat Carolina to make the playoffs. It's the little things. It's not. There's really no sugarcoating or candy coating what we're experiencing right now. But I'm going to do my best to give a little bit of a different angle and how to approach Sunday or Saturday night when you're watching. And, I treat you like adults here. That's one of my favorite things to do. It's difficult to make rainbows and butterflies out of what we're experiencing right now watching this team. And there could definitely be some redeeming qualities in, I guess, kind of a shade of a participation trophy green ribbon, I guess. I'm a self-aware man. I know when green ribbons are being given out. And like they weren't last year because there were no real expectations. That's the best you can do for the last couple of weeks, which it could be worse, believe it or not. So the can't-do list, like I do every last segment of the week, do that in the final segment, what you don't want to see on Saturday. And you're going to want to stick around for that one because it's a fun one. I told you, I'm smart like once or twice a month. The month's almost over. I gotta bring the goods. I got to bring the goods today. And what you do want to see on Saturday. And this is, again, under the guise of more future-pacing stuff because it doesn't really matter regarding this season. But the first one is you want to see Darius Robinson eat. The Los Angeles Rams offensive line is wildly improved over the last handful of months and weeks since the Cardinals played them and beat them pretty good in week 2 with, third and fourth string offensive linemen the Cardinals were facing. Darius Robinson's played a handful of games as a pro now. Even though the season's over for the Cardinals, it's very much still alive for the Rams. And while I'm not a proponent, even one iota, of, let's go play spoiler, that'll be rewarding, it's not. It's a loser mentality. Just like blaming the refs. It's a loser mentality. Seeing Darius Robinson play against an offensive line that is playing out of their shoes down the stretch here, maybe get a sack, get a pressure, get a couple pressures, get a couple sacks, whatever it is, see that he belongs right away in the NFL. That's something you want to see. Another thing that you want to see is Dadrion Taylor-Demerson and Max Melton continue to level up. Now, Max Melton's had a tough couple weeks. Okay, the Cardinals' pass rush has been non-existent, and they've overall just not played very well as a team. So, yes, you'll see the Buda Baker, see the Jalen Thompson. You already know what that is. Seeing Max Melton, who is in line to play CB2, depending on what Elijah Jones does out of Boston College when he's actually healthy. Dadrion Taylor-Demerson is set to supplant, you would think, Jalen Thompson. I don't know if they're going to retain Jalen Thompson after the season. I think the last couple weeks is going to give them a lot of tape to watch on Rabbit and see if he's going to be the next strong safety for the future for the Cardinals. So seeing those two guys play well, and they play well in different ways. I mean, Dadrion Taylor-Demerson is like the perfect mix between Buda Baker and Jalen Thompson. And then you have Max Melton, who, again, this is something that needs to be reminded. Like, Monty Ossenfort, I would say, everydayers, if you believe me, great, leave it in the comments, that he's had an above-average first 2 drafts. A lot of it is still yet to come naturally. So young players, half of them haven't played a full season yet. But even not comparing him to the Travis Shamockery that was the last regime regarding drafting, Monty Ossenfort has done a pretty damn good job. Damn good job. So, with that, continuing to see what these guys can do on defense is fascinating because for one simple thing in this line of thinking. As a reminder, Monty Osborne traded back a handful of picks in the second round and then drafted Max Melton. And who went between the Cardinals pick and where they traded back to? Cooper DeJean, Khalid McKinstry, Kamari Lassiter. Like the other corners in that flight of talent we saw, with the draft preparation and all like the draft profiles. And he decided, you know what? I'm pretty sure the Cardinals are going to, pretty sure we, speaking like Monty Osborne, are going to miss out on a couple of these players, but Max Melton will most likely be there and you get a pick. So he chose Max Melton as the guy. They could have taken Cooper DeJean. You could have been the Publix GM and take the hot button name who's supposed to go in the high 20 or low 20s, whatever it is, whatever 22 and 23 or low 20s, high 20s, whatever it is. Who's supposed to go to Green Bay. That was like the match made in heaven. And you ended up dropping to the second round. The Cardinals decided to trade back. So Max Melton is the prototype of player that Monty Osborne, Jonathan Gannon, and Nick Rallis want on defense. So if you can have him collectively with Kyren Williams for the next handful of years, produce at a high level, imagine what they could do with the pass rush. They played pretty well this year without one. So that's why seeing what Dadrion Taylor-Demerson and Max Melton can do on Saturday is a big thing. That's what you want to see, accompanied with Darius Robinson. And then finally, and this is a TBD situation, sure. Trey Benson, if he plays, you saw in practice, James Conner was practicing. Tyler Drake, friend of the show, over at Arizona Sports, put a video out that showed James Conner in a leg sleeve. He was on the field, but he was noticeably favoring that leg. So I don't know if that's just him giving it a run because it's a short week to kind of see if he can go. If Trey Benson is good to go, and as I'm recording this podcast, it's not there yet. That's why I'm only taking a minute and a half on it. I would love to see him get the majority of the touches. This is one of those things where it's like, the season's over. Let's see what Trey Benson's got. I would love to see him produce and perform well against the defense in the Rams that are still vying for a playoff spot. They're not taking any snaps off. And Trey Benson over the last 6 weeks has really shown some progress. He looked very lost in the preseason. As a rookie, you're not going to be the one. It's a different mindset to come into when you've always been the star, all the way from Pop Warner up through college. So it'd be really, really fascinating to see him produce in this offense where it's like, oh man, you could potentially have a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs light situation going into next season with James Conner and Trey Benson. And he's shown flashes. I would just like to see more of it in these last couple of weeks. That's what you want to see on Saturday. Here's what you don't want to see. And it's not in the way that you think. I'm here for you. I'm here to bring different content. And I don't know why I'm doing the fingers. That's next, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. And that means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. They've also got one of my favorites, the all-in pricing toggle option. You go in the app, you toggle the all-in pricing. It shows you the upfront cost in total with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views. This is my absolute favorite. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So you pull up the row and section, click on it, and you can move your phone left and right, and it'll show you a panoramic view of what your view would be like if you were to buy those tickets before you buy them. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. The likes have been up. Let's get to 50 likes starting this offseason. There's so much stuff that I'm going to be like, there's going to be no offseason. We're going to get right into free agency prep. We're going to get right lightly into draft prep. I'm going to have my Rolodex out for some of my most respected people in the space. Going to be some big names joining the show this offseason. Because I'll only say this a couple more times before the season's over. This is exactly the win total the Cardinals were supposed to have. And while it's not fun, and while it's not exciting, and while it's not the way we got here, while it's not an expected way to get here, and while Kyler Murray hasn't looked great since the bye, and while the team with their penalties, after having the fewest amount of penalties going into their bye, have then just exploded for these very uncharacteristic bundles of penalties. And you can call it uncharacteristic there, because they're a much more regimented team than they were in years past. This is where they're supposed to be. They're ahead of schedule. But going into 2025, that's the real year. And Kyler Murray haters aren't going to like this, but that's the year where you're going to figure it out. I don't want to break anybody's heart, but I don't think Kyler Murray's not going anywhere. And I don't think he should. I will have the conversation, like I mentioned. But that doesn't mean that, let's have the conversation about Kyler Murray. That means get rid of it. It doesn't. With that said, there are a couple things that could happen on Saturday that wouldn't be the best for the Cardinals in the grand scheme, the grand picture of things. And again, it's not the way you think. So let me start. I'll rip the Band-Aid off. If Trey McBride goes for 11 for 120 and 2 touchdowns, that's not what you want to see. And of course, you want to see Trey McBride produce. Fantasy football owners, you want to see him produce. I get all that. This game, there's zero pressure on the Cardinals in this game. So if you start to see things you've been pining for when the games actually did matter, but you start to see the floodgates open when the games don't, especially against a team that is still vying for a playoff spot, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see it. But I will take a second here. Trey McBride's 100% scoring a touchdown. It's such a Cardinals thing. It's such a Cardinals thing. He's 100% scoring a touchdown, in my opinion. But I've been wrong a couple times before. You don't want to see, you don't want to see him absolutely, even the 11 for 120, we've seen it. He's been an absolute target monster, okay? Kyler Murray and he are very, very efficient together. But you don't want to see that touchdown. Like you do, but you don't. It's like, well, where was that all year? Would have mattered. Those are the kind of questions surrounding Kyler Murray that we aren't having yet. I don't think that we necessarily need to ... yet, question mark, maybe. Even though the last 5 weeks haven't been ideal. This is the big one for me. Something you don't want to see, specifically in this game. For the big picture, it's great. You don't want to see Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. just figure out the back shoulder throw. You don't want to see them just figure out the timing routes that has been thwarting this offense for the entirety of the season. Like, it's a kick in the rear when it's too late. And what the big picture, and I said this kind of tongue-in-cheek going into the segment, going into with the finger, how teams handle under pressure is how they do everything. Now, we've got the 0-1 jump from how the Cardinals do little things is how they do everything. They've been doing the little things right up until the last couple weeks where, with the penalties and everything, and they've been sloppy. And then you see it spill over into special teams, spill it over into other things. How you do the little things is how you do everything. But it's all about what you do under pressure in the NFL and any professional sport. And the Cardinals have not lived up to that billing in a long time. Now, you've seen games where they've come back and won, so that's pressure. They had 3 comeback wins. But when it's absolutely got to have it, absolutely must win this game. I don't remember the last one they did. So on the flip side now, when it doesn't matter, and then you see Trey McBride score a touchdown, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. going up for a 50-50 ball that Kyler Murray throws perfectly, and he yanks it out of the air for a first down or for a touchdown. It's like, why now? We've seen enough sample size to where those things aren't working yet. And Kyler gets asked about it every time he's at the podium. Why haven't you guys figured it out? Oh, we got to figure it out. Why haven't you guys figured it out? Oh, I know it's frustrating. There's nothing else really to say. But those two things for me, what you don't want to see is them figure it out on Saturday. You do, but you don't, because where the hell was it when it actually mattered? You see the theme? And then the other thing for coaching I think you see the thing. I think 3 was too many. Is now going forward on everything. Like they did, and I didn't really talk about this much, but the 4th and 2 from their 18 against the Panthers, like, okay, like that was the dumbest of all calls. It worked, and they probably needed to go for it, but it's like, why overcorrect so massively when there could have just been little incremental things throughout the year? Like if they start playing loose football, like loose, we're people like to say in pocket. I don't say that. But when you're playing and you've got the flow of the game and you're really playing loose and you're really playing efficient football and everybody's on the same page, it's 4th and 2 from your own 40. You're like, all right, we got the perfect play. First down, and then you just keep going, you score a touchdown. It's like, good teams play the same way, whether it's under pressure or not. And I know that this isn't fair because it's not, but Kansas City plays the same way. Doesn't matter. They play the same way. They have Patrick Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, I know. But they play the same way. It's the same football. First quarter, last quarter, down 10 going into the 4th, which rarely happens. Doesn't matter. They play the same way. The Cardinals seem to tense up irrespective of score in important games. Like that Carolina game was an absolute embarrassment. It was an absolute embarrassment. And if we see a performance against the Rams that would have kept their season alive if they did it in Carolina, that's not going to sit well. And while it's great, and I'm not even saying lose, I hope they win. They should go out and absolutely win this game. It's for pride. I don't care about the draft. It's like, who cares? They're going to pick between 12 and 17. It's like, whatever. Showing things that everybody's been waiting for the entirety of the season in a game that doesn't matter would be a bad look. While it's great for the future, I mean, do you see the difference between the first segment and the second segment? First segment is what we talked about last season. Young players solidifying themselves as stars, you'd hope, on this team. On offense, what you've been waiting for the offense to do all year, if it shows up in week 17, it's going to be a slap in the face. So while it's great for 2025, you need it in 2024. And for a large portion of the season, too much of the season, it wasn't there. Alex Lindsay, Locked On Cardinals. The can't-do list. Let's talk about this game specifically. What if the Cardinals want to win this game? Can they not do? I'll discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at Hillsdale College. So, time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. You study any of these at school? Probably not. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher? Maybe. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Plus, everybody's going to be watching Saturday night. This is a game where the Cardinals just, I don't know, man. This is a tough one to read. There are definitely some things that the Cardinals cannot do if they do want to win this game. And one of them is, it's weird because, so Cooper Kupp he now looks old, like overnight. It was a couple of weeks. I think a lot of it was scheme, like against the Jets and another team that last week, and Puka Nacua was really emerging as a wide receiver one. But what you can't do if you want to win this game, is allow them 200 yards receiving combined. Who knows what it's going to be? Cooper Kupp always beats the Cardinals. Puka got hurt. Did Puka miss that game? I think maybe he missed the game he missed the game against the Cardinals early in the season. Then Cooper Kupp got hurt right before halftime, if my memory serves me correctly. Can't allow 200 yards receiving between the two of them. It's light work for them at times. Sometimes it's 160 for one and 40 for the other. But you can't let it happen. Kyren Williams can't run over this team. I mean, we know this team. We know what the Cardinals need to do to beat them and what they can't do. They also, and this is really, I guess, the heartbeat of this is they can't let Matthew Stafford just sit in the pocket and have his tea party. Just can't do it. He's going to pick any defensive part if he has time. And it's just something that, like we talked about in week 2, like we're talking about now, you got to get to Matthew Stafford. And he tries to force balls. He's not as much as he did when he was in Detroit, but he still got that in him, trying to fit a football into a very, very tight spot. And the Cardinals need to be opportunistic. Now, will the pass rush get home? I would lend to think not, because they have kind of been non-existent for the majority of the time since the bye week. There have been flashes. Baron Browning's had a couple sacks. Darius Robinson's got there, but, it hasn't been bankable like the majority of the season. And another thing that the Cardinals absolutely cannot do if they want to win is play safe. This is a great time to test out some stuff. So who cares? Obviously put together a cohesive game plan, but the Rams have everything to play for. So if the Cardinals want to strike just a spear into their fans' backs, just go out and play the best game of the year after being eliminated from playoff contention, it's just let her rip. Just let her rip, because this isn't a week 18 game where both teams are out of the playoffs like we're going to see next week against the 49ers. This is a very important game for one team. And while I know every game in the NFL is important, this is the Rams season. So not to go play spoiler, it would be a byproduct. I think the Rams have the Seahawks in week 18 too, so it's not completely over, but they've got to win this game. What the Cardinals can't do on offense is just play it safe, be listless, run the ball, 40 times and run the clock out of this game. I don't think they will. I think they've got more pride than that. But I find myself, and I try to be optimistic as much as possible, much as rationally possible. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by saying things are positive when they're not. I find this to kind of be a lose-lose situation for the Cardinals, with a year full of win-wins, a year full of them. And, I try to, I was going to leave the show with that, but it's just not, it's not fun. It's not the mindset you want to be in. But the Cardinals either win, and it's not a lose-lose because of the draft pick. I don't give a rip about that, in my opinion. I don't care about that. It's where the hell has this been since the bye week? Because they're going to have to play special football to win. And they can. We've seen it. And then if they lose, or if they get embarrassed, or, if it's a close game and Kyler Murray has the ball with a minute and a half left down 2 and he can't get into field goal range, or if they're in field goal range and they, take a sack or a penalty or something that forces them into longer field goal range and the field goal's missed, it's like, well, that bye week, I thought the bye week was at the perfect time, especially with where they were, 6-4, take a beat, go win some football games. I'm going to end it on this. Anybody feel like you're in this season for me it felt like a constant tug of war between how did we get here and why are we here watching this team? How did the Cardinals get here and why are the Cardinals here? How did the Cardinals get here? Like, oh man, they're 6-4 going to play. How is that possible? And then, they lose a couple games and you're like, why are they here? Like, why is this happening? And then the same damn thing, the tug of war, you flip the storylines. How did they get here? Is right now. And then it's like, well, why are they here? Well, because they played very well for like 6 weeks of the season. And then you don't know what side is up and down. And then you feel like I'm getting vertigo. And then I try to think about something else. It's going to be tough the last couple of weeks to watch this team and not just think what could have been, and it was a lot better than most expected them to play. So I don't know. Both can be true. Both can be true. Both are true. And we'll see. What you want to see, the young defensive players ball out. What you don't want to see is the offense finally click. If I have to scream, where the hell has that been more than once on Saturday, I'm going to be upset. And the can't-do list is the can't-do list. Under 200 yards, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua combined. Matthew Stafford can't be having tea parties in the backfield with no pass rush from the Cardinals. Oh, to add insult to where we are now with the Cardinals, Tyler Higbee's back. So put a touchdown on the board for Tyler Higbee. Anybody that's watched the Cardinals for a long time knows Tyler Higbee plus Arizona Cardinals on same field equals Tyler Higbee touchdown. We'll see. But yeah, my prediction is Trey McBride's 100% going to score a touchdown on Saturday, in my opinion, in my amateur opinion. Yeah, we'll see. Saturday night, I'm going to be spending some time with my family on Sunday, and I will talk to you on Monday. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you Monday.